Hey guys, it is J.Belle, the host of Girl Talk with J.Belle, obviously. I haven't put out a new episode in a long time, but I did just drop one episode with Nina Brown from the Frank Ski morning show, syndicated show. And I'm getting ready to drop another episode with a transgender activist. Her name is Morgan Sherm. There's more to her than that, but that's the main thing that she's working on right now. I really wanted to do this episode solo because, for one, everybody's getting back to some type of normal. And so as they do that, it's a little bit harder to book guests right now. And even for myself, I've been trying to get back into the groove of things and getting back into hustle grind mode. And I'm going to tell you why. But before I do that, I really want to say thank you to all of the guests that I've had the past year, especially through a horrific time, pandemic, people losing jobs left and right. A lot of my radio people, a lot of people outside of radio. I mean, the whole world was affected, including myself, and those who even deal with mental illness, mental health issues, depression, anxiety, so many more like myself. It was especially hard for us. And so in doing that, I had to really pick myself up and try to continue doing my podcast. But also in the midst of doing that, I actually broke myself down. And I'm going to explain to you how this all came about. So, I guess you would say, towards the end of last year, I really started interviewing for radio jobs as an on-air talent. As many of you know, I've been in Phoenix for 2 years now, working part-time on air for a station out here, Power 98.3, 96.1. And they've been really helpful and grateful in my growth. And I really do appreciate all that, down to the program director, DJ Complex, the operations manager, Mike G, and so many of the jocks from Dana Cortez, Automatic, Anthony A, Crisco Kid, and even Nina Cruz when she was there. I appreciate all of you to the utmost of my heart, for helping me grow, helping me learn, even in the midst of this pandemic, and really actually keeping me on payroll right now without really doing anything. I do appreciate that. So towards the end of last year, I was started interview for full-time on-air gigs. Everything seemed great. Everything seemed good. And in the midst of that too, I took on a couple of projects that I was working on. And I will say, in the middle of March, after a lot of no's, I had a mental breakdown. And when I say a mental breakdown, I mean like I was making plans because I was so frustrated that I wasn't getting hired, for one. And number two, we've been in the house for like a year. And for me personally, I live in a studio. And so I've never lived in a place this small. You know, I've always lived in a house, or I've always had a one bedroom apartment. But I had to really scale it back because of what I was making living in Phoenix. And so I had a mental breakdown. I was in this one space. All I was doing is working with a media company. I was working with Gannett. And I would do that from 2:30 to 11 o'clock at night. I wouldn't fall asleep till 2 o'clock in the morning. And I would wake up around noon with anxiety and start that day over again. And in between that, I was booking guests for my podcast, and also trying to work on another project that I've been trying to get off the ground for a while now, due to my nerves and my mental health. Taking on too much, basically. And so when this happened, I really had to step back and refocus on things and really try to make myself get better. And at the time, I thought time was going by. I was getting a little bit better. I left my job at Gannett. I was laid off, and I asked to be laid off. But I realized quickly, especially after, a couple of weeks of being out of work, I still wasn't better. And so even though I've been interviewing and doing these kind of things, my mental health has really been affected. And I've been really working hard with my therapist to get better, to do better, and to be better. And that's really going through and dealing with childhood trauma from the time that I was a kid, as we all have, especially in black families and black communities, until being an adult now. And I realized the streamline of it all is that I have been abused, used, and treated very badly throughout my life. Now, a lot of times you see me on social media and I'm laughing and I'm joking. I'm very transparent about my journey and where I want to go and the kind of career I want to be. But I realize too that over time, I can't get there if I'm not working on my inner self. And doing podcasts like this, the reason why I was doing this podcast is to bring myself out of depression, because I know there's a lot of women that been in the same position that I have been. But also in that, it was depressing me more because I've seen so many women that I've talked to be in that same position as me. And so it didn't make me feel any better, because we're dealing with this even in 2021, where women have to fight and scratch and kill and bring down one another in order to get to the next step in life. And we shouldn't have to do that, you know? So I had to take a step back. I had to regroup and refocus myself to get better, to think better, to do better. You know what I'm saying? Being 35 years old, I'm not old, but I'm not as young anymore either. There's other things to think about. But I know my main focus and my main goal is my mental health, because if I don't take care of myself, I can't go nowhere. I'll be stuck in the same place, just like anybody else that is going through the same thing right now. Many people that are under the age of 30 are feeling stuck. And I'm looking at them like, you're doing way better than you think you are. When I was your age, I was just getting started. A lot of people are able to come right out of college and jump into these careers. I'm still trying to fight for mine. I talk about this all the time, you know, and I'm very open with it because you need to know the other side of things. People make it seem so easy to just walk through and do things sometimes because they don't want to share all of the lows. And I get it. Your lows are yours. You don't want to share that because that's for you to work through and do what you need to do in order to grow and move on. But to those that are open about sharing their lows and their highs, I commend you, because it's not easy. People are very judgmental, especially our group of millennials, later millennials like myself. We judge ourselves and we're like looking at ourselves if we're not in a certain place in our life because of our age, when the reality is we got that mentality from the generation before us, our parents, and our parents got that from their parents. And so now it's supposed to be, you supposed to be a certain thing by a certain age. You should be this way by a certain age. You should have this by a certain age. No. And I'm working through that myself. I don't think that anymore, but I'm still working through it because I do want to do better, and I do want certain things by the time I'm 40. But I also realize that might not be true. So the point of this podcast is to say, number one, I'm going to put it on hiatus for right now, and I want to regroup and refocus and bring it back in a way that really reflects the growth of J.Belle and my brand. And I also want to put more into my media company, into focusing how it should look and how it should be when I'm pitching myself, because I am my brand, to these other outlets, so that I can get this podcast out there, maybe get a bigger audience from it, or, you know, do whatever I need to do with it. I have to figure those things out. You know, I want it to be more than a Q&A podcast of just bringing in women and highlighting their journeys. I still want to do that, but I want to be able to do things like this, a solo episode. You know, I never have done a solo episode throughout the whole time because it's called Girl Talk with J.Belle. I want to talk to other women. They're not girls, but to other women about their journeys. But I also want to bring in other things and other subjects that we could talk about or deal with or do whatever. So, so right now I'm going to put the podcast on hold. I know nobody asked me this, and you probably, there's enough podcasts in the world. What's a podcast that goes on hold, right? Cool. I understand. If it's not your thing, it's cool. But to those who do listen and have paid attention, this is what I'm doing. I'm putting it on hold right now until I can refigure and refocus, so I can bring in sponsorships and brands. And I want to do a whole rollout every time I do a new season of the podcast, because that's how it should be for me. So To those that have been listening, watching, sharing, message me in private about how you love and enjoy this podcast. I want to say thank you also to the radio fam, Marie, for sharing my content without hesitation. I appreciate you all, and I'm thankful that you guys have been willing and able to go through this with me in this journey. So Girl Talk with J.Belle is not gone. I'm not closing this chapter out. I'm just putting it on hold right now. I'm putting it on hold, and I'm comfortable with that. Super comfortable with that. And I made my time limit. I said I was going to talk to you guys for only like 10 minutes, and I did it. Yay! I got to give myself an applause. There we go. Yes. Okay, I'll stop playing around. All right, guys, make sure that you tune in, watch me. Hopefully, somewhere down the line, maybe I'll do a newsletter showing that it's coming back. There's a lot of things I want to work on and get better. So, bye, guys. Until next time.